Alright, here goes nothing. Funny thing, I feel like I don't think a lot of you would have realized how many times I've given myself a pep talk just before I start this. Funny enough, I feel like if I would just be a person to look at myself outside of this perspective, I would think I'm mad or insane. I've been conversating with myself, just, I don't know, maybe hoping my voice would just echo around these walls and then come back to me to start a conversation. Anyways, as much as you can assume, it's pretty obvious I'm not very savvy being in front of the camera. That's not because I'm shy or anything, I just never gave it thought to do so. It's so hard to just stare at the camera. Yes, I scripted this part too, but I'll talk to this guy instead, you know. This is Rowlet, one of my favorite Pokemons. Just stay still there. Perfect. Alright. So first things first, I think I should start with an introduction, who I am. I won't be able to say what I'm planning to do because, frankly, I don't really have a clear vision on what I want or how or what I anticipate from this. Alright, so first of all, God, I could swear that I just did this just a second ago. Alright, let's snap out of it. So I'm Pala, or Flycan, or Junior, or, you know, just, let me get the screen out of my face because I'll be staring at it all the time. And you have to excuse my posture. Alright, now I'm more comfortable. So now that I got my introduction out of the way, I feel like I owe it to myself to try something. I realized, frankly, that most of the time that I do hang out with people, or people who are fairly in my close circle, although it's not that grand of a circle, there's always a thought that's in the end of my mind, and there's always like a bothering kind of nagging voice that's telling me usually why do I sound so cynical whenever I'm around people. I assume doing this, I really shouldn't care about it or how people would perceive me, you know. I think mainly the point of this whole thing isn't pivotal to one kind of insight or one kind of perspective that I want to push or an agenda. Honestly, if I would describe it, it would be more mutual kind of thing. First off, I want to speak it into the world, what I'm doing or what I'm saying. Maybe I'll get a better idea or perspective. And secondly, I feel like I could be this kind of person who is eager enough to tackle problems or issues in the modern world, and I feel like I have a fairly good insight on stuff. I'm still very inept, and I'm still very inexperienced. But what rivals that is that I really have a sense of curiosity, meaning that I would tackle these subjects even if they don't relate to me at all. Um, and if you're listening to this and you're confused, uh, I apologize. I am too. Um, but I think the main goal of this whole thing is just to break the mold and break the ice, kind of, and begin this kind of thing. Um, I, I think I already apologized about my posture and how I'm always shifting. Um, it is kind of odd. God, I'm already repeating myself. But I assumed as long as I'm not sitting in a car, as long as I'm not sitting in a car and just telling people how to live their life, I think I'm in a good path. Um, I feel like I want to roll back to the idea on what is that voice that's nagging in my head every time I go out and hang out with people. I usually like to I usually like to be more of a listener than a person who talks. Um, and I would usually, whenever I talk, which is very not usual, um, I would always talk as if I've already lost a war that I never even intended to be in. And wait, I didn't mean intended. I mean in the war that I never signed up to, kind of. And I want to really get rid of that defeatist attitude altogether. Um, it's like time and time again, um, we find people around, especially, I have to apologize to people who are international listeners, but I think mainly I would mainly focus on stuff that are very regional and local, you know. Um, this whole podcast is, or like is it a podcast? It feels like an audio log or something. um, all right, for lack of a better term, I'll just use a podcast, I guess. Um, God, I lost my train of thought. Right. I feel like our sphere of people who talk or are figureheads or influencers. Um, I, I feel like there's something lacking. You know? Not in the sense of incompetence or whatever. I just feel like generally it's a very self-reflecting assumption, I see there's like a space for some sort of an outlet similar to the one I'm trying to present right now, and therefore I went for it. Um, I feel generally there is a sense of disparity, and everything is either ripped into two factions. There's always the figureheads, or the people, or the influencers, or the celebrities, or whatever you want to label them as, and they're not synonymous. They're different people of different parts and different sects and different, backgrounds. You can't really label them together, but they all are kind of like of that sub genre, And it is a subject that I am interested in pursuing and learning more about all the ins and outs of it, you know. Um, I feel like a lot of them lack a sense of progression. Um, I'd say this is like a self-defeating assumption for me to follow anyway, so I won't dwell on it. But from my finite ability to express and talk about stuff, I couldn't help but stay. I couldn't help stay quiet. Whenever I do hang out with my friends, and I would just talk about like, oh, you heard about the last recent fad, or the last person who talked in the seat of a car, or in front of a camera, or something, and it's always laced by some sort of like negative connotation, and I always speak my mind in Twitter, but honestly, I feel like it's not that medium for it, you know. I don't know what kind of medium Twitter is, but I appreciate it. I appreciate it immensely. Um, and I think this is why I resorted to this. I feel like there's a lot of things that are held captive in my mind instead of just being sold out as they are, you know. Um, I just want to I just want to present some insight on the ecosphere of being an influencer, or a celebrity, or a figurehead. But mainly, I will focus on the idea of influencers. Um, Honestly, God, I'm jumping all over the place. You guys have to forgive me for it, but I just need to. All right, here's what kept on bothering me most of the time. Um, in this time of age, it's really absurd to try to, you know, utilize living life without utilizing all technologies and all the profitable things that we have. And I think it's I think what we're doing here in this place is akin to inspiring. Not yet, but it could be, you know. And I couldn't just be the person who just stays quiet, you know, even though the culture here deems people to do that. Um, but I feel like I am fully subtracted from any traditional views we have here. Therefore, the next best thing is to try, you know. Um, I feel like the point that I wanted to get across is that for any first world country, kind of, the best idea is to make use of all the resources. Right? Now, there are fundamentally a lot of resources, and I really have almost zero idea of practically 90% of the resources, but this is one thing that I feel like I know a bit about. Utilizing the internet is vital and important for example, things that were left, for example, information when they used to travel just about less than a century ago, it would take days. Now we have that in our fingerprints. We just tap away, and things get sent, things get received. We're all in all time, real time connected. And I'll cut it short because like no one needs to hear this patronizing introduction to this kind of thing. Everybody uses the internet, hence why you guys are even able to tune in and listen to what I'm saying. Now on the internet, something no one disagrees is very vital, has been introduced to our lives, right? It's introduced itself in a very unapologetic way, something akin to evolution. It happens. It's something like gravity. It just happened. It doesn't have an etiquette. It doesn't really have any sequential introduction into our lives. It didn't come really with a guide. Maybe it did, but like nothing. It's as good as like guides you find in a bike. It's there. It's itself. It's and it just happened. And you either jump on this train and you get 500 meters up to your destination as fast as possible, or you stick to your bike. And I'm sure that not most of us has used the train to go to that point, because to be behind is a disadvantage unless you already secured your place in the future and you need time to reflect and stay behind. And I don't think everybody has that luxury, which is semi-sad thing, but also exciting that we don't have that luxury. We are all kind of in this gauntlet to chase our dreams, to race, to learn from other people's mistakes. And when we make a mistake, we let other people around us learn. We really invented the dimension, and it's something that I would always be proud for about being a human. This is something that I could always say we, and I could always say collectively, I respect it and I subscribe to it. I'm sorry about this theatric introduction, but I felt like it's essential. It's essential to just talk about how, because more often than not, I think people will always take stuff for granted, and it's not a fault in their own. It's just like the world we live in right now is super fast. To tie it all into a nice bow tie, I think I already did. I don't have to. I really thrust this point any further. We all have the internet, and it's here to stay. It's a revolutionary thing, and it's so nice and whatever. Everything has its own drawbacks and whatever, so I'm not gonna dwell on it. And I think I've been patronizing enough. And I'm sorry, it wasn't my intention to be condescending, but it's just like introductions aren't something that I'm very used to, especially to a Pokemon. Then again, like I want to focus on something, which is now that we established that the internet is here, and we have stuff like that are sub-genres of the internet, something like the social media, you would always find people raving about how social media is bad and whatever, but like it's just like the internet, you can always find people saying it's bad, but you always gotta find people using it. Social media is phenomenally an important pillar of the internet, and we needed it. We needed it desperately, um, given how media everywhere is just kind of like dropping the ball, and it's bottlenecked by people, and they get to, you know, shape up the vision that everybody should have. Now everybody kind of is enamored by the idea of individualism and choice, which is which grants me so much hope and excitement. Um, it is a philosophy that I do subscribe to, and it's one of the few philosophies that I do really hold dear to my heart. I feel like as a human being and as a like ever growing species, I think we owe it to ourselves to um, we owe it to ourselves to be able to have as many choices as possible, because if not, we are disregarding this, you know, we are disregarding our free will, we are disregarding our ability to be autonomous. So again, back to social media. Um, I think I think over here we don't utilize social media as much as we should. This is gonna be a lousy point, so you guys gotta give me. Let me take a little smoking break. And I'm not gonna lie and say like, oh, I'm gonna edit stuff because honestly, I'm not gonna edit stuff because I have no clue how to edit stuff. All right. So social media, mainly Twitter, because that's the platform I usually use. Um, what I want to add, or what I want to say, is constantly we would find people who are interesting folks, you know, and I will try to maneuver through this whole subject without like name dropping or saying that kind of stuff, because honestly, and I'm being super frank, I don't know what I don't know what my rights are for this kind of endeavor, you know, and I wanted to wait until I really know my rights until I do this, but I think I shouldn't, you know, because if you think about it honestly, um, I doubt a lot of us, you and me together, you know, really know our rights, and it's no fault of our own, and it's no fault of the people who could aware us with it, you know. It's mainly give me a second. I was putting music to calm me down, but it's agitating me more. Um, wait a second, let me see something. So I thought My main purpose is just to humanize myself as much as possible and to be as human as possible towards you guys. You know, I don't want to talk in an elevated pedestal. I don't want to talk in a lowered chasm so that guys can hear me. You know, I want to talk as equals. I want to talk as a person who is part of this society and a part of this digital society that we have. That's cultivated and very special and very intriguing in its own way and its own rights. You know. Um, so we came to the conclusion that I really want to make everything so general. A subject that I had dropped and talked about recently with a friend. I emphasized the difference between being a celebrity and being an influencer. I know that the word influencer has such a terrible connotation, albeit from the international league. You know, people over on YouTube, they always rave about how much of a condescending title it is, and even people here who probably don't even understand like the difference between the two. And it's okay; it's a fairly new thing, and honestly, I don't think I really know the real difference between the two. Um, but I know this much. They both, like, both celebrities and influencers and figureheads and what have you, politicians or whatever, they usually talk to the people through a one-way uh, route, right? And although you might not think it, but this is some sort of a relationship. It it functions as the same way, you know. They give us insights, they give us part of their personal life, and instead we give them our time and attention, you know. And that phenomenon is called parasocial relationship. And it's defined by how there's just one way of interaction. Um, fundamentally, even though the word parasocial relationship has been around for such a long while, ever since there has been like celebrities, and I would say media in general, you know, um, I think in the last decade it has changed its definition, especially to suit this new tier of celebrities, which is influencers or figureheads or, you know, uh, I would talk on something very parallel to an influencer, which would be something like a Twitch streamer, right? Um, now, if you let me roll it back to a celebrity. Now, let's say if you are a celebrity and you were caught on some sort of a scandal or something, you know, you had to clear your name or anything, you would just say it to a news outlet and then they would just funnel it through. And also, you would have your own PR people and you will also have other PR agencies. Basically, every one of them catering to your brand or your image, you know. Um, and the difference is that like your brand or your image, it's essential on both factions, albeit people who want to utilize your name for for brand deals or advertisements, and then you get to be a spokesperson of some sort of a company or something, or some sort of an item, and then they sponsor you. Sorry. My stomach's been acting up, I'm sorry. Um, and on the other hand, you would find people who are your fans, which is derivative from the word fanatic, who are obsessed or like even just happy to see you in a way. Um, the key is that you have to balance both of those. And as a celebrity, your ways of moving around isn't as similar as an influencer. Sure, both of you guys have a PR, but like for a celebrity who would be acting in movies, the number of PR agencies they have are very different than someone who is up and coming and organic and an influencer or people who are from the social media platform, because everything kind of like moves in real time, and there's like, and I think our idea of having an influencer is very similar to a Twitch streamer also, and honestly I'm not like I'm not super, I am kind of super in tuned, but not as much as someone who already watches that platform. I only watch a couple of them, and gradually like I would usually watch stuff on YouTube, and somehow the most relevant ones, or the ones that have their input in YouTube, they would cross over to my algorithm on YouTube, and then I would check it out. Again, I want to go back to the whole celebrity thing. So if a scandal happened to this celebrity person, more often than not, they won't be the people who are handling it. If push comes to shove, they might put out a statement, and this, funny enough, this would be the last resort option for the celebrity. Because a celebrity from his downtime, which I don't know how long, I'm not very in tuned, from their downtime from one project to the other, they are traded around from PR to PR. So when you're in your downtime, you have your own kind of PR, I assume, and then once you get picked up by a movie, the movie PR, they would be taking care of it, and that's why a lot of the celebrities would be forced into a superficial kind of lifestyle. You would rarely find a mainstream celebrity who you would be able to humanize, actually. Biggest example is when this whole COVID thing happened, and the whole Me Too thing happened. All they ever did was just like push out these devoid of humanity kind of videos, or like those singing videos or whatever, and like not a lot of people would have a positive takeout from these kind of videos, because ironic enough, at the end of the day, most of them are actors, and what they're doing in those videos are literally acting, and they would. It is very stupid, like stupefying to just see them do this. But then again, funny enough, most of the negative comments that are put over on Twitter or whatever, I am sure that most of them weren't even read by them, And funny enough, what happens is that people who are not celebrities take this narrative, and then they fight over it between other people who are not celebrities. But the difference between that and a person who is an influencer would be that the influencer doesn't really have that virtue or that liberty as a celebrity. An influencer has to be more keen. An influencer has to be more direct and deliberate. They have to be more in tune on what made them likable. They need to not let go of that charismatic relative persona that they give to people, because in the end of the day, they are there to be a guiding thought process. You know, we need we need influencers in this day and age because you cannot teach everything. All right. So what people resort to nowadays is that they would have people who kind of like not think for them. That's not the word I want to say, but guide them through a path that is more relative to their thought process, because there's so much things to think about. There's so much things to just like adhere and put and organize in your own mind, you know. And no one's at fault about that. It's just like how we conducted before, that the life moves really fast, and there's so much issues that are happening right now and right on the moment, and you have to have a perspective about it. You have to know about it, and like more often than not, you find people who are under fire because they have stayed quiet, you know. And honestly, if I would foresee what happens, I think this fad would die out really soon as we get more expertise on how to utilize the internet, okay? Because we have to face it that this whole phenomenon is very new, you know? And God, I'm older than the internet, and I'm 27. But basically, I think the point that I want to lay on, if you guys are wondering why this is really hard for me to get out, because for me to present this kind of subject matter, I would always have to bring outside examples. I can't really choose a person that has happened, this thing happened to them, and just to be cautious not to be a defaming person, you know, because that is not my intent. I think we came to understand what is the utility of having an influencer. God, sorry, God, I'm getting dry mouth. So I'm sorry. I realize that most of this thing I'm just like rambling on, and I really hope that at a certain point that what I'm saying isn't lost in a vacuum, you know, or at least is enough for people to follow. Because I didn't really want to go on a script on this one, because I think it would have more impact if it came without some sort of a script, you know. So let's try to understand what we're trying to say. So in a world where everything moves really fast, right, we need people who are charismatic and intelligent and versatile to kind of be a guiding voice to the majority, right? And it is such a problem to not have this kind of thing in such a place that is like in our country, at least my country, in the Arab Emirates, which is like an example for rapid success and improvement, right? It is ironic to not have utilized something like influencers here, you know? And I genuinely think it's not a fault on the laws or things put here, because generally, even in the States, you would find people who are saying that technology are increasing in such a rapid pace that it's so hard to have laws that keeps up with it, and that's the United States, you know. Why do I think an influencers movement is kind of impeded here? Like I said, a celebrity has to be superficial because they have to balance both brand and people, right? And their brand isn't really their own, you know, it's handled by PR and people like that. Sadly here, what we have is that every single person here, or every single person who uses the internet at least, you would sooner or later realize that they are defaulted into being superficial people. And I don't want to beat around the bush, but most people do live some sort of a double-edged life here, you know. And it's okay because there's a clash between like modern style of living and there's a traditional way of living, and it's bound to clash. You know, you find people who are from the youth and they want to live their life freely and all that, and then you find people who are their parents and they would want to live very traditional and conservative towards the way that they lived prior. You know, which both aren't really inherently bad. You know. Um, But there's another huge um, fault in being an influencer here, and I realize this from almost every influencer that I have seen pop up on my timeline, and it hurts every time I see it. You know, I think we all can agree that generally, as a human error is bound to happen, right? Everybody gradually slips up or doesn't present their idea in such a way that like presents what they actually stand for, you know. And every influencer I've met had this problem. I would usually not talk about this, but I've seen a parallel happen to a similar person. Um, there was I took this example from someone who was a Twitch streamer, and basically um, this person was very up and coming, and she had a really good stream, and she had her own community. And gradually something happened, and she didn't get um, wait. Okay, so this person had their own community, and they had their own fans, and had a large number of people following her. And she was like one of the top creators over at Twitch. And eventually something against the terms of services happened, and this person didn't get banned. I think I'll have to name drop. Yeah, I think her name is Alinity. And I was watching her case, and I always thought that the outrage towards her was a bit overblown, you know. Um, but like I dabbled more in towards the memes, and the memes were actually pretty funny, you know. Um, Gradually, like people caught on this, and people would start pushing a narrative that this person is kind of like has an inside friend inside Twitch, and that's why she's not getting banned. And gradually, uh, whenever she streams or whenever she does something as minimal or whatever, you know, like at one of her streams, I think she tossed her cat behind her. And if you all know, like, regardless if that like hurt the cat or that was her intent, which I really doubt, we know that cats always land on their feet, and the way she tossed it, like the bed was literally behind her. And people run with that narrative and said, "Oh, this person was an animal hater and whatever." And gradually, I saw this one person called this person on YouTube called Devin Nash. I like his stuff, and he had a 3-hour interview with this person after this whole thing blew over and whatever. And the first hour, all he did was talk to her as if talking to a friend and humanizing her. And then he gradually realized that this person is actually like a nice person, and like this person, which is Alinity, she's a human after all, you know. And she is nice. She's supporting her family, and she went into like medical school, and then she dropped out just because she created because she created a community and that she liked what she does and all that. And you know, generally, like, the point I'm trying to get across, and there's another point after this one, but generally, if you think about it, you as a person, you really, really have to be a special kind of person if you are able to be hateful towards someone, if you humanize them, which is kind of what I'm doing with this Pokemon. No, I'm kidding. But generally, like, if you sit, even if you play a video game, and you you get to be like as toxic as players get in a competitive game. If you start a conversation with a person in the video game and that person uh, replies in a very positive way, it's very hard for you to just be anal in the end and just start being toxic towards them. Unless maybe just like knowing that you're gonna leave the game right after and you don't really care, but like that's eventually gonna toll down on you, you know? So mainly if you humanize someone, it's hard for you to just be belligerent towards them. And that was the first thing that Devlin did when he interviewed this person. Second thing, he added this, he told her what her biggest mistake was. And funny enough, the biggest mistake she ever did was an advice that was given to her by her PR agent. And her PR agent usually manages celebrities. And that mistake was when she didn't get banned, she didn't address it. She didn't talk about it. She stayed quiet. And for someone who sculpted her own community, you know, for someone who every day is there for 12 hours straight, you know, or something like that. I'm not sure what her hours are. And to be like you, this screen that people are watching, they're watching this person all this time and they're pushing so much attention, and for her to not address what happened was the biggest mistake she could ever done. And honestly, what's so funny is that the PR agent were the ones who told her to do that. Now, if you guys don't know what Twitch is, I should have explained this way earlier, and I'm very sorry. But Twitch is like a streaming platform where like the streamer sits down and plays a video game or talks about stuff, and there is a chat on the side. And this chat is all the people who are following or in this room, kind of like watching the stream, you know. And that's the big difference between a celebrity's interaction and an influencer or a streamer, you know, who isn't really a big shot of a celebrity that they have their own brands, you know. Which doesn't mean that some celebrities don't have their own brands. Some of them do, but until then, they have to kind of like walk up this hierarchy, you know. So in this chat, there's like a whole chat which is all the people who follow you, and those people, you know, funny enough, those people are formed as if they are like one entity, you know, and those people, they will gradually keep, like, the player will be playing and then the chat will just ask questions or talk about their day, and you know, and then the streamer, this would make it very bearable for the streamer to stream more because they can bounce off this other person's comments, you know. And so like, now that I explained what Twitch is, kind of, eventually the numbers rack up to thousands, and as the numbers get up, kind of, you would find that like the chat stops being very connected and more spammy. And I tried streaming a bit. I got up to like 5 people watching me, and I realized that like my stream is like way different than any other like big time streamer, because I would find people, it's either gonna be one guy who would say like fuck your fingers, or another guy who's gonna be like, oh, what do you draw? This is so awesome, you know. And it's very one-on-one interaction, and it's very humane, and it's very, oh cool, what do you do? And this is what I do. Oh, that's nice, and all that. It's like almost having a conversation or being in a group chat. But once you get to that level, like, it gets very hectic. You can't really keep up. So let's get back to Alinity's problem, the Pandora's box. When she didn't get banned, and she listened to her PR agent, who also manages celebrities, she left it to boil on, and eventually the people who condemn her as a, as a arrogant celebrity, they took hold of the narrative and basically spun the idea that she is probably friends with someone in Twitch, and that's why she's getting special treatment. This was condoned by her PR agent. What she should have done was to spin a narrative saying, oh no, I didn't do that. Even after that story happened, she would also stream and not address that at all. And it became too fake too early. And then her hardcore fans maybe stuck, but her semi-fans really turned into either people who hate her or people who don't care about her anymore, because it is a very changing sphere and people change on the constant. So later on, when she tossed her cat, the people who hate her spun the narrative that she is an animal hater. And overall and gradually, it hit her psyche. She didn't want to stream anymore. Something that was a resource of inspiration and passion and created like a community became something so toxic, volatile, and terrible, because it was hijacked by people who rebelled against her in her own community. Now this is something that I see always in our sphere, and I mean always. And I brought something like Alinity's idea not to disparage her, no, but to show how much of a, first of all, how recent of an event it is, and second of all, how destructive it is, and third of all, I think it is a very good subject matter that showcases both ends, and how, like, a celebrity, this would probably never happen to a celebrity, because a celebrity would either be it's in their best benefit to stay quiet and have the PR kind of like work it around, and they have numerous ones, and those PRs that work for celebrities don't understand the influencers like sphere, and influencers need to be more in tune with the people around them. And I think that's something that people here don't generally understand. And maybe I don't understand it either. But for me, this makes a lot of sense, So that's kind of what I usually go out with my friends and talk about. I would always be very cynical when I go out with my friends. I talk to them, I'm like, oh man, people here really don't know what they're doing. And every time we would find people either like sitting in their car or like whatever and talking about stuff, and even the subject matters that we have are very stupid. And to be honest, at the end of it all, I can't really blame them. On the contrary, I really applaud these people for even trying that, because truth is the fact, it's not one person's fault. And then they saw something and they said, hey, I'm really gonna try and be an inspiring voice for people. And in their point of view, this makes sense. In their point of view, this is right. In their point of view, although some of them do sound very jaded and out of place, but their intent is what justifies that. And I really can't hold them as accountable for their kind of thing, you know. The the ecosystem that has been simulated here isn't considerate to this new phenomenon. And hopefully it will get better. Hopefully there will be more, uh, there will be like awareness to this kind of stuff. Hopefully people will get more educated on this kind of stuff. Um, and yeah, um, I think that about wraps it all up, you know. Um, I think I did say my piece, um, and if you listen, bless you and stay golden.